Ready to buy a car, a home, or just want to take control of your money? Your FICO score matters, and 90% of top lenders use it to make decisions. Check your FICO score for free today without hurting your credit score. Visit myfico.com/free or download the MyFICO app today. MyFICO gives you the score lenders use most, plus credit reports and real-time alerts to help keep you on top of your credit. Visit myfico.com/free and take the mystery out of your FICO score.
You alright? I'm the world around you, and this is Pause for Thought on Threshold FM. Now, I've mentioned this one in passing a couple of times so far, but this week we're going to start looking into the Hollow Earth. It's a pretty big topic, this one, so we might come back to it in the future, and I suppose it's fair to say that this time we probably will do a little more than scratch the surface. I'm not just going to throw names at you and dates and out like that. I'm going to try and connect the Hollow Earth to other things you may have heard of, in the same way that the Hollow Earth connects Brazil and Chile and Africa with a system of tunnels that no one else can see. So anyway, Hollow Earth is exactly what it says on the tin. It's one of the sort of meta-conspiracies, if you like, that touches a lot of other conspiracies out there. There are accounts of this hidden subterranean world all throughout history, from the ancient Americans of Central and Southern America to Buddhists of today, with ties to Christianity, the Nazis, Bigfoot, UFOs, Phil Schneider's deep underground military bases, obviously aliens, Noah and the flood, and even ancient Egyptians. It's probably one of the biggest topics you're going to be able to find in the whole conspiracy lore. Now, I'm not sure where I'd place it in the world of conspiracy. I mean, obviously, it's beneath us, but I mean in the sense of what you tend to discover first. I don't think this is like entry-level conspiracy. I don't think this is one of the first things you stumble upon on YouTube. But it's also not one of the harder ones to get your head around. It's middling. It's Middle-earth. I can't imagine you discover a Hollow Earth before you find out about aliens or even Bigfoot, but you probably find out about it long before you discover the people who believe that Saturn isn't actually a planet, but it is in fact our sun. So you would find Hollow Earth, like you've seen the underwater submersible objects, you've seen the UFOs, you've seen a bit of Bigfoot, ghosts. You're probably into your paranormal stuff and that. You probably smoke a bit, and you've discovered yourself down this little rabbit hole on YouTube, and it's all Hollow Earth videos from here on out. So that's where we're at. We're not at the point yet where every conspiracy video is pointing to like a racial place. We're not at that end of conspiracy. We are a lot further to the fun end of conspiracy, the nicer end of conspiracy, the daft end, But let's bang a song on and we'll crack on. Here's Welcome to Planet X by King Crooked with a little skit from Eminem, and it's got The Observer on it and all. We can go back to ancient America though, because you've got the Mayans, the Incas, the Aztecs, all believing in the Hollow Earth in some way or another. And they all have a god or otherworldly visitor that seemed to arrive by an aerial transport, and that's our first UFO reference. And weirdly enough, with the Mayan or Aztecs version of this being Quetzalcoatl, it also gets each of us a step closer to God. Their description matches closely to our depiction of Jesus, a white, tall, humanoid character, bearded, with lessons on hygiene, pacifism, chastity. And where it gets a little less Jesus-y is with his lessons of corn. Quetzalcoatl supposedly taught the Mayans and the Aztecs about corn, the wonders of corn, the beauty of corn, the magic of corn, and how to use corn instead of eating animals, which I don't agree with. I don't think corn can be used for everything. I think it's got its uses, but I don't think it's as important as what this alien was maybe suggesting. But could corn have been something else? Could corn have just been a substitute for crops? Just a way of saying, instead of purely teaching them about corn, was it just teaching them agriculture? But then again, corn does tie in with regular alien lore, because some people believe the aliens taught us how to farm crops, but I'm not thinking about it like that, innit? I think that our actual link here is that aliens converse with us through cornfields with their own little crop circles. So what if the crop circles appear because they're the leftover marks of the runes used to open portals, or from the literal underworld? They push up these runes, or they wave their arm around in the sky like Mewtwo and his fucking windmill, ruining the clouds. And maybe they make these runes appear from just popping up out of the ground by pushing them into their overworld to them. But, like, speaking of the underworld though, a lot of Buddhists seem to believe that there is a king of the world in this hollow earth, a supreme leader of sorts that rules from the capital city of Shambhala. And you've got other modern beliefs about underground dwellings of superior races of humanoid and all, because you've got Phil Schneider and his deep underground military bases spread throughout Northern America, and these stories of tall aliens surviving deep in the so-called crust of the earth, capable of firing lightning at humans. And they seem to just ignore the rules of pacification from our lord like Quetzalcoatl. But think about it. If Jesus was of another species from a distant land, then wouldn't he want to pacify the races of Earth so that they wouldn't cause any issues later down the line? Especially when you find out about all like the nuclear war stuff to do with all this hollow Earth gear and all. And that's the nuclear war I'm mentioning there. They believe, hollow Earthers, they believe that you've got this nuclear war that wiped out the Atlanteans, and it's this nuclear winter that some people believe forced all these races underground in the first place, or at least what moved the people of the hollow earth into the caverns in between the hollow earth and our earth, because there is this little buffer area, if you like. So these tunnels, I can find some evidence of them being all around the world, but they seem to be mainly in Asia and in the Americas, which realistically that seems like they're pretty close to each other if we're to believe that all the land on earth was one sheet of land that got broken up by whatever reason, be it by a meteorite or the movement of the Earth's core. Obviously, though, you wouldn't really believe in the movement of the Earth's core if you believe in hollow Earth. But you've got to remember that it's a different sort of way of seeing the world, isn't it? Like, the hollow Earth doesn't have a molten core. And it makes sense, because if the Atlanteans, or so-called gods of the underground, had taken over the Earth, or, signed a deal with the powerful humans of Earth, of course they would brainwash everyone into not believing in the hollow Earth. And, from my point of view, it makes perfect sense that Jesus and his Quetzalcoatl friends and these others, so-called, like, feathered serpents, as they called them, like, it makes sense that they would come here and lie to us, going, "Oh, you don't want to dig too far down, mate. It's fucking lava down there." Lava, they all know what lava is, because there's volcanoes knocking about, so we're told back then, loads of them. So everyone was scared of it, And I like it. Think about how young you are when you talk about all this sort of stuff, because you're about 6 or 7, aren't you, I reckon, when you're at school and they're telling you about the tectonic plates and that, and the continents. You learn your continents, and then it gets repeated to you most years. I like photosynthesis. Maybe photosynthesis is a lie, but to me, the repeating of it every year makes it seem dubious. If your missus keeps telling you every Sunday that she didn't cheat on you on Friday night when she was out with Rachel, then you've got to question her and Rachel's relationship, especially when you know that you were fucking Rachel on Friday night whilst your missus was apparently with her at the pub. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you found out some stuff, then, I mean, I know it's a difficult allegory to get your head around, really, maybe like a tricky metaphor, but what I'm saying is that Rachel means the world to you both. I mean, ironically, she means nothing to either of you, but because she's a part of a carefully crafted lie, but a lie that's convenient for both sides to believe. It's convenient for someone to believe that the world is only ever the land we know, but you only have to watch a bit of David Attenborough's programmes to hear him say something like, "This used to all be seas," like fucking Mufasa in The Lion King. But that's about the highest known points of Earth, saying these used to be seas, because the lowest known points to us they're thousands of miles below sea level. They're still seas. So where's this sea that was above the sea covering our land that used to be a sea? Where's that water gone? Where's that sea gone? There's just, fucking... Where's our sea come from, for a start? Did all the humans just decide to walk up the mountains as the tide started to come in for a bit too long one evening? Maybe it came in an extra, people noticed, oh, the tide's coming an extra metre there, Joan. She's like, oh, fucking hell. Get the go bag, we're off. Up the mountain. Is that what they did? They just wandered up the mountain and carried on walking while the sea followed them. It don't make any sense. And these are just some of the questions you may consider when you start to realise that you've swallowed rhetoric from teachers. Now, consider most teachers, innit? Teachers aren't experts. Not even close to experts. They're people who have decided that they want to teach children. Now, I'm not knocking it, innit? They want to help society by training children to be ready for their lives in society. But did you know that you can be in charge of a class, albeit as a trainee teacher, but you can be in charge of a class before you've even finished university? So that puts you around the age of 20, 21 if you went to uni at 18. So realistically, what do these people know that are teaching kids? When questioned in school, many teachers will shut you down because they're embarrassed that they don't know the answer. They'll shout at you or even give you a detention and call you disruptive. Asking questions is one of the best ways to learn. And that's what I'm doing. I'm asking questions. This is Pause for Thought, and this is Threshold FM. That was D1 and Murs with No Pictures of Jesus. And you know where there's probably no pictures of Jesus? The Antarctica. Look at that for a link. Top class broadcasting there. And it's important to mention Antarctica as well because of a bloke known as Admiral Richard E. Byrd. He had some of the highest achievements in the American military, so it's weird to find out that he also claims that woolly mammoths were roaming the green lush lands of Antarctica beyond the ice wall. He also discovered the largest dormant volcano in the continent of Antarctica, and that almost ties a few things together. If you view a volcano as a doorway or a chimney to the hollow earth, and then you also think about the story of Scientology with Xenu dumping the souls of prisoners into the volcanoes of Earth, then you could maybe build a story of how life got into the hollow Earth. If such a thing as a soul does exist, then it's easy to see how Jeff Goldblum's quote of Jurassic Park can be applied. Life finds a way. You dump them souls into the so-called lava, then they'll easily inhabit the body of something or other. Or maybe a soul has the power to build an organism around itself. Another tie-in with Hollow Earth is the idea that the Hollow Earth has layers. And in Scientology, there's allegedly a belief that you can find on the internet if you go and look about a bit, although it's not easy to find. But again, just watch South Park, one or the other. And if you look into Xenu, the leader of this alien spaceship, it states that he placed a protective barrier around the world. So what if that's what our flaw is? What if that protective barrier isn't above us, it's in fact below us, enslaving or encasing what's beneath? Our flaw could be the glass ceiling that was built by the tyrannical patriarch, Xenu. So that'd be weird for people, wouldn't it? Having a glass ceiling below you. But that's horrible, because then you're thinking all these perverts beneath you'd have been able to look up at you while you've been in the shower. Or if you're a lady, maybe they've been looking up your dress. If you're a bloke and you're from Scotland, maybe they've been looking up your kilt. I mean, if you're a bloke that wears dresses, they could have been looking up at your balls. But either or, what you are don't really matter. There's just a chance that there's these souls of ancient aliens looking up at you from beneath the ground. But anyway, speaking of volcanoes, we're taught about their existence pretty early on as well, aren't we? You always see kids making them in American sitcoms as a science project. But have any of you ever actually seen inside of a volcano? Because I haven't. So how do we know that they're actually full of lava? I mean, molten stones, that's pretty hard to believe, isn't it, Mr. Science Teacher? I put it to you that this is a misinformation campaign. Or it could be a mistranslation of sorts, because, and I know you're thinking, fucking hell, here he goes again, but there are Asian beliefs that so-called llamas defend the entrance to the underworld. Not fluffy, spit-in-your-face llamas, shaven for cashmere llamas, but spiritual folk like the Dalai Lama. Now, in the East, there's a lot more awareness of spirituality and history, whereas in the West, we don't really care about history, or nor do we really believe in spirituality. And to be fair, the very nature of this radio show shows that some of us don't even believe in history, let alone spirituality. Could the hollow earth just be full of massive creatures like the previously thought extinct mammoths? Could this relatively untapped source of prehistoric creatures be where we actually get fossils from? Or maybe we've never actually cloned anything ever on Earth, ever. Maybe Dolly the sheep was just the same sheep, in the same way like the Russians, what they did with their armies, where they'd walk their armies round the block. Maybe that's what they used to do with the news, or they just used to stick a sheep next to a mirror and be like, "Fucking look at that. That's you number 547, and next to it is Dolly the sheep." Spitting image, aren't they? We don't know they didn't do that. Did we ever even see Dolly and the original sheep in the same barn? I can't remember that. But I have read they're thinking of bringing back some mammoths to life. But what if they're never going to bring them back to life, though? What if they're just going to go and collect them from Antarctica? What if Antarctica is just Isla Nublar from Jurassic Park, or Skull Island from King Kong? Either an island that was previously inhabited and held a research facility, possibly the first point of contact with Earth from the Anunnaki, so that could be maybe Spaceport 1, but supposedly Earth Spaceport 1, whatever it was called, supposedly that's like near Iraq, so probably not Antarctica. But what if that was like the Garden of Eden? What if that's where the Garden of Eden was, though? Or, I mean, if it's like more like Skull Island, though, it could be a place that's untouched by humans and aliens alike. A land where the Earth's truest natures exist, protected by a huge ice wall that is in turn protected by every single government from all around the world. Which is weird. I've never understood why it would be protected. Obviously, you've got the flat earthers that think this is the edge of the known Earth, and I guess that's where flat Earth and hollow Earth sort of overlap. I mean, to a degree, it is the edge of the Earth, as it's literally the threshold between worlds. Could the recent rise in conspiracy theorists be the reason for flat Earth being peddled by mainstream media to try and replace the story of the hollow Earth? Just one more lie added to the list of distortions on the real history of Earth and the fictitious history of the Earth peddled to us by secondary school teachers. I think that everyone has now heard of flat Earth at this point, not just through my shows. I don't think I've ever really brought it up, but just generally speaking, it's the word zeitgeist. I'm not sure. I don't like using words I don't know the meaning to, but I think the word is zeitgeist. Like the general consensus, the collective consciousness, the known terms, if you like. And not many people, though, realistically have heard of Agartha and its many gateways and tunnels, and Agartha is the hollow earth. Don't think I've actually said that in the whole episode, but yeah, that's what Agartha is, that's what it means. And this seems like it's on purpose, though, innit? Is the idea to protect us from the knowledge so that we don't cause ourselves and the dwellers of the hollow earth damage and harm, or is it to stop us from being free, or at least as free as the hollow earthers are supposed to be? Then again, the hollow earthers all that free? They're literally confined within the earth with a sort of natural lighting that seems to form underground according to different readings, and ruled by a king that controls it all. It all sounds a little bit like Lord of the Rings in a way, but they've got that in Lord of the Rings. Now, I don't really like the films. I think they're pretty boring films. Controversial to say, I know, I would imagine, but I mean, it's an old film, but they're not very good. I don't think they were even very good when they came out, but I don't think I watched them when they came out. But either way, though, in them they've got that old bloke that makes ogres out of mud and then he controls them, I think. I may be very much oversimplifying it then, but then you've got that possessed guy, I think, as well, that wants his own army of ogres and demons or something. Then you've got that Gandalf, who's secretly bringing together all the other races of the earth in order to fight the oppressor that no one even knows exists. Saying that, though, now, as I said, it's fucking... I didn't like the film. I've seen the first one. I've seen half of the second one. And I don't know. I know that a volcano was pretty important in the last film, so that's a link to what I've been saying as well. But I just never bothered after the first one, and well, after the second half of the first half of the second one, And I can hear, if there's any nerds listening now, I can hear them going, that's where it starts to get good. It needed those first 4 hours to set the scenes for the next 2 hours. And I say that that's not the sign of a good written story, is it, really? That's a bad storyteller. If you've got to spend 4 hours of a story laying down the foundations for only 2 hours of it to be enjoyable, you're not good at telling stories, mate. Either the writer of it, either Tolkien himself, or the people that made the film. Someone there, in my opinion, didn't do a very good job. But I'm not a filmmaker. I'm not really anything, and I'll admit that. But I didn't enjoy the film. Besides the point, they could have made the films a lot more interesting, infinitely more interesting. But instead, they rounded all of its edges. Because I've read The Hobbit, and The Hobbit's a fucking good book, mate. Not read many books, but The Hobbit was enjoyable. And they've as I say, they've rounded all of its edges. This world of Tolkien's, hollowed it out, and turned an entire generation away from that sort of story, from the magic and swords and sandals and elves and ogres and orcs and ghouls, maybe ghosts. I don't know what else was in it. Wizards, hobbits. Instead, what they've done, instead of telling that story as it should have been told, I think what they've done is they've smeared the shit of Lord of the Rings, and they've used that to fertilise the fields for the seeds of Harry Potter 4 or 5 years later, and the 20 sequels of Harry Potter to explain the first film, because that's another film series that I think was made and to be made and publicised to be brainwashing materials for people about magic, wizards, monsters and other races of humanoid. It's weird that there's always one of them out there. And why are films like this pushed so hard, even with news stories to help promote book sales at the time? That's mad. Why was the news about people queuing up for an Harry Potter book almost like there was nothing going on at the time to report? Except there was fucking wars. There's always wars. You can always have a news story about a war. And are these wars that are happening, or are the wars that are happening when Harry Potter comes out, are them wars not actual wars, but they're actually wars over the tunnels and entrances to Hollow Earth? Or are the wars in general a cover-up? Do we claim to be at war with, people and other countries, but in reality we're at war with these subterranean dwellers that just pop up out of the ground, the ancient intergalactic criminals sprouting out the floor? I've watched programs where an American soldier is interviewed, and he details seeing what he described as a demonic monster in Afghanistan. And now here's another thing that could be a mistranslation or purposeful muddying of the word Agartha, which Aghartan, which looks somewhat similar to Afghanistan when you write it down and kind of squint at it and close an eye. It's a bit of a stretch, I know, but it is a possibility. Maybe these monsters are actually the living organisms from beneath the earth. Maybe our sun damages them through radiation, or maybe their demonic presence is like how we used to wear armour in it to fight in the Middle Ages, so maybe we see these underground dwellers as demons and that, because that's the armour they've got to wear to protect themselves from the sun, and they're all going, why the fuck are they scared of me? I just look at the state of me, and realistically it just looks like a leprechaun or something, but he's got to wear this massive, because if you saw when a whale sees a submarine, I bet it thinks, fucking hell, look at that. Realistically though, inside that submarine in proportion is ants. You could even suggest that maybe we, as ourselves, are the sentient armour that inhibits this face of the earth, the sentient armour for the souls of the underground dwellers. Though there are some people, though, that believe that the spacecraft that we see aren't from outer space at all, and that they actually come from the hollow earth, and that makes sense. One of the main reasons we have space rockets, though, is because of a Nazi called Werner von Braun, and these Nazis, at least Hitler, seem to hold some belief in the hollow earth, apparently, and at least that would sort of explain why Hitler died in a bunker with his missus and a few Tibetan monks, because for a bloke that didn't like foreigners, it's weird that he'd bunker down and offer protection to some in his last moments. There are people that tie a lot of Nazi stuff in with the with the Buddhism part of All Hollow Earth, but that feels a bit wrong to do. But maybe there are links between Hitler and the East, because I have seen packaging for ice cream with Hitler's face on it, and that came from somewhere in Asia. And speaking of things that seem like they're from Asia, do you know, you ever heard of Magic Mind? I've been drinking them sort of once a morning for the past few days and that. And they're pretty nice, innit? It's full of different types of mushrooms and that, and matcha. I don't know exactly what the mushrooms are called. One was called lion's mane, one was called ashwagandha. They say the nootropics, as in NOO, as in like, you know, that massive Hoover from Teletubbies. But instead of like sniffing around these weird aliens with TVs in their bellies, it's supposed to be good for your brain, rather than having some like sentient Hoover knocking about, which I imagine it'd be pretty bad for your brain. Because you wouldn't really want that, would you? Because that'd be horrendous if Henry the Hoover just came back to life. And anyway, Henry the Hoover can't drink these anyway, because you know, Nunu's mad for the tubby custard, and he wouldn't like the Magic Mind. But you know what though, I quite like a cup of coffee in the same way that is it Nunu, like the Hoover, in the same way that he's rumoured to allegedly enjoy a bit of cocaine. I like a cup of coffee. And sometimes I'll find myself drinking 5, 6, 7 cups of coffee a day, and then by the end of the day I'm feeling a bit sick and that, and I'm thinking, I wonder why I feel like this. But I know why I feel like that, I just don't want to acknowledge it. It's because I drink too much coffee through the day. And you'll have seen in videos and that, I drink it black most of the time, no milk, no sugar. I don't even have a spoon to stir it, so then at the bottom of it I get like a sludge of coffee, and I think that's what gives me the kick. But I've not needed to drink that many since I've started drinking these Magic Minds. You have it in the morning, right, with your morning brew, and then after like a couple hours or so, you just sort of, instead of thinking yourself you need another cup of coffee, you don't even think about it. You've just got this sort of, I don't know, like, not like a tunnel vision, because that sounds rather negative, but you kind of... not hyper-fixated either, that's probably more a me thing. But you'll have noticed, mate, if you're looking on my socials, look at all the memes I've been making, mate. I've been making all them memes, you've been loving them, right? And I could put... that's probably because I've been drinking Magic Mind, mate. So if you want to make loads of funny memes, right, that make people want to buy my bad taxidermy, then you want to go to take yourself to magicmind.co/aroundyou. Is you want to use the discount code, mate, around you, as in world around you, but without the world. That's AROUNDEWE 20, the numbers, all in capital letters. Now that was kind of confusing, so don't worry, there'll be a link in the description below, and I'll explain it in the description of the show, don't worry. But if you want to give it a go, it's definitely worth a try, mate. I can't give you the exact price, but if you use the discount code, you can get up to 56% off your first subscription, and then or you can get 20% off if you just buy something once. So if you want to give it a bash, you can get 20% off, but you probably want to go for the subscription because it's quite a bigger thing to save. And you know, it seems like it's alright, innit? I've been drinking it for like 4 days and that, and I can't say it's done anything bad to me or out like that. It seems to have, you know, and it's a nice thing, isn't it, to drink a little bit less coffee through the day. It's a nice thing to be able to lie down at night and, you know, close your eyes and not think to yourself, fuck, you know, what was that? You know what I mean? It's nice. So if you want to go and give that a try, it's www.magicmind.co/aroundyou. You want to use that link, because I think that's what gets me a couple pennies if you use that link, and you want to use the discount code AROUNDEWE20. But you got 10 days from this episode going out, innit? So, you know, act fast and all that. But anyway, we should probably get back into the Hollow Earth and that, because this is otherwise. There's probably mushrooms in the Hollow Earth, though, isn't there? There's probably massive mushrooms, like them sentient mushrooms that seem to be knocking about. But we'll probably get into sentient mushrooms later. But they'd never tell us anyway, would they? They'd never tell us if there was sentient speaking mushrooms and that, and if they had a community down there, because they're always changing history and changing the facts and that. Perhaps, though, all of the alternative history side of things was swept under the big rug of the Nazis. Like, you know, like say you've killed Goebbels and you've stuffed him like a fucking bear, and Goebbels is the rug on your floor. Obviously I've picked Goebbels because Goebbels would probably have Oh, fuck it, nah, not Goebbels. Let's have Mendele. Mendele's a lot more believable that someone would turn him into a rug out of spite. So, imagine it, like you got a polar bear rug, but instead of a polar bear, it's Mengele, Joseph Mengele, Uncle Joe. And you've got him flattened on the ground and that, and then all the world's authorities are looking round going, you know, they did burn a lot of information, didn't they? We could probably hide the fact that Atlanteans exist and that there's a hollow earth, and to help us get the world back on track for 100 to 200 years. Should we do that? Fuck it, let's do that. Let's sweep it all under Mengele. Pop it all on. Lift his chin. Lift his chin. Go on. That's it. Push Bigfoot just under his balls. That'll do. Now stamp it down. Don't worry about doing it softly. It's not a bear. It's not endangered. It's a cunt. Jump on it if you need to flatten it to the ground. You know, and by doing that, by putting a lot of this alternative history stuff under the rug of the Nazis, under the guise of, oh, it's related to Nazis and that, you know, that'll sway a lot of people away from it. Like, there's a decent Hollow Earth website that I found, and on one of their pages, the first image you see incorporates the SWAT sticker with the eagle, and I'll be honest, it does make you think, maybe these people could just be Nazis. But that in itself, that's a mental thought, innit, realistically. I mean, it breeds the concept that people can't do anything good if they have views that differ from your own. And I'm sure there's even people listening now, and out of the 3 or 4 listeners that I have who do listen, one of them is bound to hold a different opinion to me about something. I mean, let's make it simple. Let's imagine there's a listener, right? Now, let's imagine that there is a listener who believes in flat earth. Vehemently, though, like, they evangelise it, you know, they're knocking on doors, they're fucking the Jehovah's Witnesses of the area. Excuse me, good sir, have you ever seen an atlas? You know, whereas, let's say I don't believe in flat earth, but that listener might also really enjoy black pudding, and so do I. So, do I disregard them and their thoughts and everything to do with flat earth because this person, you know, believes in something that I don't believe in, kind of thing? You don't, do you? So it seems wrong to assume that the reason why, I mean, realistically, why would they even, if they weren't Nazis, why would they put pictures on there to pretend that they were? They wouldn't. In the same way that history books, schools own history books, and some people, so I'm just trying to say what, you know, things you read on the internet, innit, and get points across to you that don't make sense. So by using that same sort of logic that you discover on the internet of saying, oh, there's a picture of a SWAT sticker there and an eagle to do with Germany and the, you know, during the Nazi rule, that means we shouldn't read anything that's on this website. Them same pictures are also in your textbooks at school, though, innit? So there's a picture of a SWAT sticker in your textbook at school, but it's okay to learn from that textbook even though there's Nazi symbology in that book. But if you see it on the internet, you got to stay clear of it. Mental, mate. Don't make any sense. To be honest, don't really know where I was going with trying to tie flat earth in with black pudding. Not too sure, but I think we'll keep it in there. I mean, I did read a little bit further down the website, and it turns out that the photo was just there because there was some information on that page about Nazis, much like your school textbooks. That I'm not saying that the people that run the school system are Nazis, not at all. They're just teaching about something to do with it. That's in there. It's not all the book. It wasn't all the website. It was a very small portion of the website. But it was information about the Nazis and their alleged Antarctic base. And so I put it to you that we never went to the moon. Never went to the moon. That the moon is a construct of sorts, either a manipulation of our minds to make us see it, to explain away the night time, or a hole in the crust above us, as is the sun, both holes that somehow move as we may in fact live in. Imagine we live in like a huge gyroscope, more precisely to help you visualise it, like a huge gyroscopic onion, peeled onion. And if you was to imagine if you can cut the ends off that onion and you can spin the layers of the onion around within itself, like that almost. And then you put holes in there, and one of them holes is the moon, and another hole's the sun. And occasionally, they line up, don't they? And we see other things where the sun was and the moon was, so that could explain eclipses as well. Maybe we all live in some form of, maybe the world is built more like a hollow earth, and it's hollow in the same way that a Russian doll's hollow. It's hollow, but it's full of other Russian dolls, so the hollow earth could be full of other hollow earths. And maybe these holes are something that you can slip through from one world to another, and that's, like I've said before, maybe that's where we get the stories of werewolves and mermaids from and that. But that's just my idea, though, and the reason I brought up the moon is because maybe the moon landing was faked. But maybe instead of it being filmed by Stanley Kubrick in a warehouse in America, it was in fact filmed within the hollow earth or within an arid part of the Antarctica, well, of the Antarctic continent. We were led to believe that televisions show us static when we watch old footage like that, but what if the grainy nature of the film is actually because it's just snow captured on camera, and the television people who want to control our brains just tell us that's static, and even then, that it's static that's caused by the radiation that's in our atmosphere because of the Big Bang. What about the radiation from the sun, though? Why doesn't that damage the telly? Why does using digital frequencies stop that from happening? It don't make any sense. I mean, I'm not a scientist, but it don't make any sense. Wouldn't it make more sense that the radiation that interferes with technology, or did interfere with technology, is actually from the wars fought by our prehistoric ancestral overlords from underneath the earth? It makes more sense to me, anyway. Let's have another song. This is Full Moon by Knox Hill and DK. I was trying to think of some films that allude to the hollow earth. And obviously you've got that one with the Will Ferrell, the remake of Journey to the Centre of the Earth, and that's full of dinosaurs down there. And what is weird there is, in our school, we never had adverts in our school. We couldn't even buy Coke or Fanta out because it was a Catholic school, and apparently it wasn't allowed because it was a Catholic school, which I never understood why you couldn't advertise in a Catholic school, because the Vatican's one of the richest countries in the world, if not the richest country in the world, because it's very small, it's got its own currency, not many people live there, so proportionally I think it makes it one of the richest countries that's ever existed. But we couldn't have a bottle of Coke in there. But we did have a poster once, a movie poster for an actual film that was coming out called Journey to the Centre of the Earth. So if that's not brainwashing to make us think that the Earth, has a mantle and a crust and a core, then what is it? I mean, the whole idea of dinosaurs in the middle of the earth, though, does lean a little bit towards the idea of Quetzalcoatl, as he was referred to as the feathered serpent, but not because of his scaly features. Apparently it's because he was wise and flew to Earth in a spaceship. So, realistically, it's probably not a nod to the mole men of Agartha, but saying that moles, they're blind, innit? And these underground humanoids aren't supposed to be blind. I touched on it earlier, but they have a light source that fills their network of tunnels, and that's apparently being created by electrifying the atmosphere within the tunnels. A little bit like what Nikola Tesla apparently wanted to do before Donald Trump's grandfather apparently received his research. But that's another story for another episode, I guess. But my point is, I wanted to get to is that these underground dwellers have what we would refer to as sunlight. But more than that, these cave networks are illuminated. Now, this means that the civilians of these caves are illuminated people. And something that loosely links to that is the Illuminati, a name that supposedly means the enlightened ones. We take that as a spiritual thing, but what if it's more literal? Maybe it just means they're actually enlightened by possibly artificial means. And that's why the Illuminati apparently have the logo of an eye and a triangle. The eye could be there to show that they can in fact still see, whilst the triangle represents the prison that they're held within, the earth itself. Though maybe the triangle could be a representation of a three-sided shape, like a triangle for example, which obviously in itself would be a two-dimensional shape, but perhaps by having it with these three sides as a triangle rather than like a two-sided semicircle, it shows how a three-dimensional shape has been locked into two dimensions. We can get a bit Carl Sagan with it though and say that these diagrams are actually a way of showing something from one dimension being represented in another, showing 3 and 2 dimensions, but when in reality the souls are trapped within the hollow earth could be extra dimensional beings being trapped inside there. Now, they're locked away within the 3-dimensional world, trapped, but unable to interact with our side of the dimension, except with few examples. And that does in fact lead me on to my next film that has a depiction of the Hollow Earth and extra-dimensional beings interacting with humans. And that film is Space Jam. Think about it. Michael Jordan is sucked into the loony world by being sucked underground and eventually through a two-dimensional doorway that looks like it'd be impossible to open until he is yanked through it. Then, inside that world is a host of vicious two-dimensional characters that can feel pain momentarily, but also they never age or die, and their only true fear is having an alien come and imprison them all and forcing them all into working for him for his own personal gain. A story that links to the Anunnaki and their slave races, but there are other ties here and all. More so to the interdimensional reptilians though, rather than the Anunnaki themselves, as the aliens plan to use Michael Jordan and the Looney Tunes to make other people happy, even though they themselves would be miserable, and this is sort of what people believe that we are to the interdimensional or otherwise invisible reptilians. They feed off of our misery in order to nourish themselves, to feast upon it, meaning that we are the enslaved Looney Tunes. And could that mean we are actually the inhabitants of Hollow Earth? And instead of physically living forever, maybe our souls continue to live forever, trapped inside this plane of existence by Xenu's floating machines to stop us from escaping the door between dimensions. The way in which the aliens, also known as the Monstars, get free from their evil boss is by asking the Looney Tunes if they can stay with him. And I don't know what the lesson is here. The Looney Tunes accept them into their world because they can be quote-unquote loony as well. And that means that these aliens are then trapped within their dimension because they simply like it there, whilst the alien boss man with the cigar is from the human dimension, as are these little aliens that can steal the skills and powers of basketball players by using their own weird technology. The aliens have got a ship that allows them to travel through the two dimensions, back and forth at will. And could these machines actually exist? Who are we? Are we the humans? Are we the little aliens? Or are we the Looney Tunes? I put it to you that the aliens are the interdimensional beings and they don't really like being here, or they are here so that they can gain access to the inner earth, the Looney Tunes land if you like. Maybe the whole idea of spirituality isn't for us to become greater people, but to make ourselves the perfect vessels for these things to use to gain access to where it is they want to be. Maybe we're all souls though, and a soul's life starts maybe at one end of the line as a material being, and then moves up the layers of this onion, and then back down through the onion again as an ethereal being, or experiencing that dimension with the lessons and skills of the previous dimension. I'm not too sure innit. I can't be certain, and I don't want to fill your head with nonsense. So let's have a fucking tune, mate. Get in the Discord right now and tell me if you can name everyone on this track. This is from the Space Jam soundtrack itself, and it's called Hit 'Em High. I've got another way that we can link lizards, Jesus and Agartha together, and that's the way that the Agarthians supposedly breed. They, like the lake monsters from a few weeks ago, are believed to be parthenogenic, like Godzilla is, and also, to a degree, I suppose, like the Virgin Mary. Having never copulated with a man, she was able to have a virgin birth, and that virgin birth could be a way of teaching us about Agartha, or by suggesting that the angel Gabriel artificially inseminated our Lord's mother with an ancient turkey baster in his own ethereal spit for lubrication. Could be a way of changing the story somewhat from Agarthians to angels and God. Because no one thinks of the Virgin Mary and thinks, yes, she fucked the Son of God into herself. Do you know what I mean? Like, to say that the Virgin Mary's parthenogenic implies that somehow she fucked herself till Jesus sprouted inside her, I guess. That's what people would think, heathens, but that's what people might think, when realistically that's not what parthenogenicism is, if parthenogenicism is a real word. To be parthenogenic just means you can, give birth without having sex, like a Komodo dragon. We all think that Jesus is Mary's and God's son, because that's what we know, but realistically, what is God other than a plot device used to narrate our lives and teach us rules to use in an easy to grasp manner? Because as a kid it's very hard to imagine that your actions have consequences on other people, so To say that you'll burn in a pit of fire deep underground if you're bad is a really easy way to manipulate children. Though, what if some conspiracy theorists are right, though? Not about the turkey baster full of holy cum, but about everything that we are taught through Catholicism and Christianity being a willful inversion of the universal truth. Eastern religions view Agartha as a sacred place, the heavenly destination, whereas in the Western world we see it as a hell, a place where you never want to return to or even end up at all. By filling our heads with civilization and a broader picture of society, maybe we are punishing our eternal souls to be forever stuck in this realm, never to reach the hollow earth, stuck in a machine that we can't switch off or escape. Maybe the only true way to reach Agartha is to do what is best for you, and to do what makes you happy, to fuck society off and leave your worries for others that you don't know by the wayside, because obviously helping people that you know helps you and makes you better.